because I need to have permission from you.
All right, so the
All right,
floor is yours.
oh, I need you to enable attendee screen sharing, please.
All right.
There we go. Okay. Does everyone see the slides full screen? Great. Perfect. Actually, that is not the beginning of the presentation. There we go. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the seminar on branding startup and making a difference. I assume you're here because you have a startup, you need to brand it, and you think that maybe, just maybe, you could be making more of a difference in the community and the world with your business. I'm here to tell you that making an impact with your startup isn't just possible, it's quite profitable. And I've structured this seminar to be very easy to take notes on, so please feel free to write down the insights you find most important to your business. All right, let's take a step back for a moment and talk about two different kinds of startups. All right, this is Startup A. Startup A never took the time to fully understand their audience or assess their competition. And as a result, they were clueless as to how to position their offering in the existing marketplace. They didn't take the time to craft the timeless philosophy, a brand personality, or a vision. So each time they had a change in leadership, their core tenets were gone in the wind and replaced with a new set. This confused the market and depressed their employees. And with nothing to stand for, the company had unclear long-term goals and poured money into meaningless communications that never delivered results. Their visual identity, meaning their color palette, typography, and logo, was inconsistent. And when they assessed market awareness, audiences couldn't even recognize their brand. Their online presence was laughable and outdated, and customers, as a result, didn't spend enough time on the site or social media to learn more about the company, let alone make a purchase. Startups like this one, no matter how well-intentioned, don't stand a chance in the mainstream marketplace, especially not long-term. And unfortunately, Startup A represents the vast majority of existing companies, especially small businesses and startups. Now, this is Startup B. Startup B accomplishes amazing things. Their employees and company representatives express the same values, personality traits, and key messages across the board. Their team members are mission-driven and highly productive. Their customers are enthusiastic evangelists of the brand's innovative and ethical practices, and they happily spread the word of the brand to their friends, family, and online communities. Their online experience is top tier and very enjoyable to use. As a result, Startup B topples mainstream competitors and changes the world. So what exactly is it that separates Startup B from Startup A? My name is Asa Goldstein, as Alan said, and I'm the founder and creative director of my Boulder-based agency, BrandShine Creative Services, where I help impact startups develop brands and online presences. And I'm also a mentor for the Denver Founders Institute. And I'm here to argue that brand strategy is what separates the companies that fail from the companies that succeed, and that any company can make a real difference in the world if they go about it the right way. Now, remember, strategy is implemented before naming your startup. It's implemented before creating a logo or a visual identity, definitely before going to market or any marketing efforts. And unfortunately, most startup owners start with the name or they start with a logo. And this is the wrong way to go about it. It's the common path to failure. Strategy is the most important step you can take in ensuring the success of your company. So here's what we're going to cover today. We'll learn what a brand truly is. We'll uncover the elements of a successful brand. We'll find out why you should make your brand an impact brand. We'll discover the potential of an impact brand. We'll determine the tools that impact brands need to succeed. And you'll learn how you can start making an impact with your company today. So let's start with the basics. What is a brand? Obviously, everybody has their own definition, but I define it as how your brand is how people think and feel about your company. And branding is the art and the science of shaping those thoughts and feelings strategically. So how do brands go about shaping those thoughts and feelings? Well, first, they research and develop a clever and innovative market position. And their positioning may be more classically based on the quality of their product or the value that they offer for the cost when compared to other companies. Maybe they're disrupting the market with a distinct innovation or providing an unforgettable customer experience to a previously unaddressed audience. There are infinite paths to differentiating your brand and standing out in a crowded marketplace, but you do have to do it. You have to differentiate. A distinct market position enables you to claim a unique stake in the minds of your audience and in the eyes of your competitors. Secondly, they have a strong philosophical base at the core of their brand. They share values with their customers and they express those values through the traits of their product. For example, if it's vegan or compostable, the causes that they support, and the way that they treat their clients and their colleagues. Thirdly, they develop a brilliant brand personality. This personality inspires their tone of voice, the channels through which they communicate, their opinions on current events, and even the vocabulary they use in their communications. Advertising, as we all know, is no longer a one-way street. Brands need to interact with their audiences on social media, and with a brand personality developed, you can ensure that each interaction is consistent and on brand, no matter who's managing it or communicating. This personality also shines through in the visual approach and the customer experience. Now, successful brands share some key traits. They are authentic, they're honest, consistent, and most of all, human in their communications, the performance of their services, and their interactions with their customers. They're differentiated. Like I mentioned before, they've differentiated their offering or their brand from the competition by their market positioning. But they're often also differentiated by their personality, their visual identity, their social and environmental impacts, and other factors. Finally, they're consistent in their personality, in their messaging, in their philosophy, their quality, and their visual identity. This makes it easy for them to occupy a meaningful space in their audience's perception. Remember, branding is the art of creating meaning. So if you aren't convinced yet, why should you bother with brand strategy? Well, developing an ingenious brand strategy and online presence will help you to attract investors and early adopters, and investors will invest more in your company because a strong brand has more promise of a brighter future. It'll help you disrupt competitive markets and penetrate markets that you thought you couldn't, and to build a loyal following right out of the gate. So sounds pretty great, right? All right, let's talk enough about brand strategy. Let's talk about making a difference. If you leave here today and only remember one thing, it should be this: any brand, even yours, can be an impact brand. Any brand can make a difference in the community, in the industry, and in the world. So what is an impact brand? An impact brand is any company that makes a net positive impact in the world. In other words, you can't say that you're saving the whales and then kill the pandas instead. It has to be an authentic net positive impact. And no greenwashing either, which is a common practice where a company deviously brands their product as eco-friendly when it's really not. And it's worth putting the time, money, and effort in to make that impact, because being an impact brand is actually a massive advantage in any marketplace. So most of you are probably aware of the Sustainable Development Goals, but if you're not, they're a set of global goalposts put forward by the UN in an effort to make the world a better place for everyone, regardless of their circumstance. They include eliminating poverty and hunger, ensuring gender equality, providing clean water and energy to all, building sustainable communities, and other similar goals. If your startup is in some way furthering any of these goals, congratulations, you are already the proud leader of an impact brand. Now, impact brands can take many forms. They could be a renewable energy company like a solar installer, or a vegan restaurant, or a nonprofit, or a fair trade coffee shop. They could offer natural products, depend upon sustainable production processes, remain cruelty-free in their practices, or be equitable in their hiring. Of course, you can mix and match these qualities as you wish. The more impact you make, the better, obviously. And these brands are sometimes called zebras, unicorns, or they're B Corp certified. So those are great keywords to use if you're looking online for a community of other similar entrepreneurs. And I'll repeat them: zebras, unicorns, or you can look through a B Corp directory, which means they've been certified by an organization that says that they are an impact brand. Now, these are just a few of the ways startups and small businesses can make an impact. But remember, the goal here isn't to make a small difference. It's about building brands of substance that can eventually take on and overcome toxic corporate mainstream market staples and change the way business is done forever. I have a strong belief personally, and that belief is that the future of capitalism is conscious. That fairness, sustainability, equity, quality will deliver higher long-term return on investment than you would by cutting costs by resorting to inferior practices. People are willing to pay more, not only for quality, but for ethics and values. And time again, we see consumers abandon companies that are publicly exposed as exploitative, of people, animals, or even the planet for profit and gain. This means that the spoils will go to the ethical and the transparent. Nothing stays hidden for long anymore, especially on social media. And one wrong stance or bad practice can get your brand canceled, right? We've all seen it happen. On the other hand, if your communications are exceptionally authentic and philosophically consistent, audiences will reward you with their attention, their trust, and their loyalty. Finally, the triple bottom line of people, planet, and profit is quickly becoming the status quo. Everyone expects their favorite businesses to make an impact in some regard, even if the company itself isn't perfectly sustainable or harmless in its practices. However, I think personally that it's better to be good to the core and let that be your main impact and even your differentiation in the marketplace. Donating to charities or supporting social causes should be supplemental to your main impact. And I'm not unfounded in these beliefs. Unilever recently conducted a study that found that 78% of people in the US say they feel better when they buy sustainably produced products. And obviously, people love to do things that make them feel good over and over again. They get a psychological and emotional reward just for being your customer. That's a huge advantage. They also found that there's $1 trillion in market opportunity for brands who can effectively communicate their product's sustainable attributes. The key phrase here is effectively communicate, and that's why expertly crafting brand strategy, copywriting, and online presences comes into play. Finally, they found that a large percentage of consumers worldwide, including in the US, are actively seeking sustainable alternative products and companies that use sustainable practices. So there's tremendous opportunity right now in doing the right thing, more than ever before in history. Plus, there are numerous other advantages to being an impact brand. First of all, being an impact brand, like I said, creates instant differentiation, but it shouldn't be your only point of differentiation. Working hard to improve your practices drives innovation in your company, and you might have a new approach to a service or an offering that you hadn't thought of before because now you're approaching it from an impact lens. Your brand instantly attracts like-minded audiences who tend to be more loyal customers and proud supporters of your brand, and you're able to forge trust with prospects based on those shared values. Like I said, I help impact startups at BrandShine, and I often have hours-long conversations with potential clients because we have the same worldview, we have the same opinions and vision for the future, and that allows us to connect. And you can do the same thing with your prospects. And as the study indicated, consumers are inspired and they feel better about themselves simply by buying from you. And as we now know, the impact industry is growing exponentially, and there's plenty of opportunity for everyone to get involved. Plus, being an impact entrepreneur provides several personal benefits. You get to pioneer social, environmental, and ethical progress. You get to heroically disrupt the status quo and topple heartless corporations while your brand becomes the preferred mainstream option. And you get to play your unique part in building a brighter world. Now, there's a distinct philosophical core to this presentation, and I figure since I think almost all of us are Boulderites, I should give this seminar a little hippy-dippy woo-woo spin, okay? The approach I'm proposing can be described as Taoist capitalism, okay? It's knowing that the easiest way to change the world is to build from the existing framework, to turn capitalism against itself, to embrace the branding and marketing techniques that were used by corporations to normalize practices like factory farming, plastic production, oil fracking, sweatshop working, and use their own methods to take them down. To use branding to educate consumers, help them live happier, healthier lives on a habitable planet where everyone gets a fair shot. And branding is this magic key that levels the playing field against these corporations. Like I said, impact brands are notorious for being grassroots efforts. You know, you got the classic little leaf logo and it doesn't really go anywhere, but they can succeed in the mainstream with the right tools. So what do impact brands need to succeed? Well, first of all, they absolutely need a fully fledged strategy and premium brand. Now, this includes, like we talked about before, a well-developed internal compass and philosophy, distinct differentiation and market positioning, an unforgettable brand personality that stays consistent, an inventive and consistent communication framework, so you're always communicating the same messages, just in different ways, in an eye-catching and memorable visual identity. So your logo, your typography, your color palette, that's the visual identity. They also need an outstanding customer experience. This includes the pre-purchase, purchase, and post-purchase user experience. During the pre-purchase phase, you should be asking yourself questions such as, how did customers find my brand and my startup? What impression did I make during the research and discovery process? Was I helpful? Was I salesy? Did I point them in the right direction? And then the purchasing experience. Is your website easy to use? Is it accessible to all despite any disabilities? And does it communicate your key benefits clearly? And finally, is your in-store experience innovative and on brand? As you probably all know, the coolest shops and restaurants, their brand shines through their whole restaurant, their whole area, because they've used their brand and their brand personality to furnish it and decorate it. Lastly, the post-purchase experience. And this includes customer support, follow-ups, newsletters, and rewarding loyalty. Of course, your social media presence will be a key player pre, during, and post-purchase, so it's extremely important to have a professional and refined approach to your social media from the very start if you can. Finally, you'll need a clever marketing strategy. Your campaigns should be carefully researched and targeted. You shouldn't just start a Facebook ad campaign without putting too much thought into it. Your ads should have a strong, unique, creative flair and use on-brand assets and writing. And your marketing should be tuned into the customer journey. What stage of the funnel are they at, and how can you move them along toward a purchase? Remember to educate, entertain, and inform customers first and foremost. Don't push the product or the service too early on. So how can your startup start making an impact today? First of all, you can reconsider your current practices from an impact lens. Truly examine each step of your production process, the materials you use, the workers you employ, the companies that you partner with. Can you purify any of these aspects? Could they be more sustainable, more equitable, more kind? Can you make your office space and material use more sustainable? Remember, it's worth asking these questions and really putting a lot of thought into them, because as soon as you ask the right question and make the right change, you're on the path to forging strong differentiation and building a loyal fan base. You can also outline the values you share with your audience. And after conducting some market research, try to understand the emotional and philosophical drives that possess your target market. How can you tap into that passion? Am I missing anything in the chat? I see chat things. I'm not missing anything important? Just want to make sure. I'm good? Great. Thank you. Okay. So again, outline the values you share with your audience and try to figure out how can you tap into that passion they already have for the causes they care about, right? So even if you don't have anything you're passionate about, think about what is my audience passionate about and take that on. Okay. And most importantly, align with an appropriate cause. Once you've tweaked your business practices to match the values of your audience, it's time to speak up and step up. Donate to a cause that your audience cares about consistently. Spread awareness about important issues using your platform. Stand strong with your audience on controversial topics that most businesses don't take a stance on, and put your money where your mouth is. This will pay major dividends when customers realize how much they love and appreciate and align with your brand. Almost like it's a person that they know. Now let's check out some awesome impact brands. Drops produces truly eco-friendly dishwasher and laundry pods, from the ingredients to the packaging to the shipping process. And they're also a great example of a stellar brand personality. They have some really funny commercials. I can't show them in the presentation because they're a little risque, but their CEO is very funny. I definitely recommend checking it out. And they communicate their sustainable practices extremely effectively, very consistently. And I'm already a loyal customer. I use it for my laundry and my dishwasher. Works very well. Now, Ben & Jerry's is a big name, but they owe much of their ongoing success to their strong mission and values. They support social justice, climate action, standing against industry issues such as RBGH and lack of GMO labeling. And those stances have earned the respect, admiration, and loyalty of their audience. Ben & Jerry's continues to attract new customers every day as they take a strong stance on each social, ethical, and environmental movement. And if you go in any of their stores or the one on Pearl Street, you'll see that their brand relies on their social involvement and their what the causes they care about. It's decorated all over the whole store. And Pact is a clothing company. They manufacture sustainable clothing made from organic cotton in fair trade certified factories, as well as offering numerous innovations such as the option to offset the carbon footprint of your shipment and providing a give back box you can use to donate your clothing to nonprofits. And they pay for the, I believe you use the box they send your clothes in, you put your own clothes in it, and they provide the postage to send it back to a nonprofit. And they've cleverly positioned their brand as Earth's favorite clothing company, which is super memorable and super great. And most of you know of Tom's wildly successful buy a shoe, give a shoe experiment. And as you all know, their impactful mission drove Tom's to international acclaim and success while still making a positive difference. And that was a core cornerstone of their company. So just to summarize what we learned so far in the presentation. What is a brand? Your brand is how people think and feel about your company. Branding is the art and the science of strategically shaping those thoughts and feelings. It's a it's a science in that you're using research and surveys and really truly gaining a real understanding of the marketplace. And then the art comes in. How do you communicate your difference? How do you identify your audience? What does your logo look like, your visual identity, your website? So like I said, it's a combination of science and art. So how do startups brand themselves? They do it through their market positioning, their brand philosophy, and their personality and presentation. Successful brands, even the biggest ones in the world, tend to be authentic, clearly differentiated, and consistent in how they present themselves, both visually and in their personality. And again, most importantly, any brand, even yours, starting tomorrow, can be an impact brand. And there are numerous advantages to doing so. The future of capitalism is based in fairness, sustainability, and quality, and the spoils will go to the ethical and transparent rather than the way it's been in the past. But it's up to us to drive that change. We saw that there's data to back this up. Unilever is a huge company. If you don't recognize the name, they're behind Dove soap and other major products, and they see massive potential in this industry, in this approach. Like I said, there are tons of reasons to be an impact brand, and they give you an instant advantage no matter what marketplace you're in. And there's potential for you personally to pioneer progress, disrupt the status quo, and build a brighter world and leave a real legacy. And we learned that we can embrace ancient woo-woo wisdom and apply it in a modern setting in order to make a positive difference. But you'll need a fully fledged strategy, a premium brand that can stand up next to the big corporate ones. You'll need an outstanding customer experience that doesn't drop off at any point in the process. And you'll need a clever, well-informed, and consistent marketing approach. So a few ways you can start making an impact right away is you can reconsider your practices from an impact lens. You can find out the values your audience has and find a way to share those values with them, and then align with an appropriate cause and be consistent in your alignment with those causes. And we saw that these are just literally four of the thousands of impact brands out there, and more are springing up every day, and they're succeeding wildly. So it's really important to understand that there's a ton of opportunity here, and it's already proven that businesses like this can succeed. All right, now when you're ready to launch your brand, you have your strategy in place, and you've used that strategy to inspire your name and your visual identity and your writing. Where do you go to build your website and start it? Do we build it on Wix? Everybody say it with me. No, we don't build it on Wix, okay? You might have seen a YouTube ad where a guy goes, I built my startup website with Wix. I guarantee you, he's a paid actor. Don't do it on Wix. And here's why. It lends itself to amateur designs because it's so beginner friendly that everybody thinks they can do it themselves. And that leads to not understanding the deeper parts of website design and development that matter a lot, like making sure it's optimized to load quickly, optimizing for search engine optimization. And also they have mobile friendliness, but they don't have full responsiveness, okay? It doesn't, the website, you'll notice if you have a Wix website on your computer and you try to shrink the screen, it doesn't change. Professional websites are responsive and they adjust to the screen size. And it also offers only very basic customization, okay? Now we have WordPress. You probably heard of WordPress. It's used by a lot of freelancers and agencies out there and some very brave beginners. But we also shouldn't use WordPress, and here's why. I used to use WordPress. I speak from experience. It's very difficult for you as a client or as a person who made your own website to edit the site after it's developed, and it's very easy to break. If you've never been in WordPress, you get in there and there's a big panel of plugins that might have been used by you or your developer. And if every developer uses different plugins, and if you don't know what plugins are like almost like apps. They're add-in features, And a big selling point for WordPress from a lot of people is that there's thousands and thousands of these plugins, but there's a problem with that too. And that's that these plugins expire over time. And if you're not paying your agency, $200, $300 a month to maintain your site and back it up, if one plugin breaks, it brings down your whole site with it sometimes. And it can almost be impossible to retrieve depending on the circumstances. So it's risky to do so. It also takes a lot longer for you or an agency to build the sites and develop them and get feedback on them because it's just a slower loading platform. Also, custom code is needed to achieve unique interactions and effects. And like I said, branding is all about standing out, doing something different. And so you want to be doing something that stands out. And again, that lends itself to the fact that most companies, even agencies, use the same templates to build the sites, and they customize them a little bit for their clients. So your website ends up looking a lot like the other websites out there. And you'll notice even some of the biggest companies out there, you go to your site and you have this feeling like, oh, I've seen this before. This is very familiar, okay? What I recommend you use and what we use at BrandShine, and I'm not a paid representative, I'm just a really big fan, I promise, is Webflow. And there's a few reasons why. And that's because the Webflow sites are extremely easy to edit after launch. So whether you design it or you hire a professional to design the site, you can change text or images right on the page, like point and click, without affecting the original design whatsoever. There's no risk that you're going to open the wrong plugin and screw things up or break the site in some way. There's no concern about that. And also the backups are automatic. So you're not going to pay an agency $200 a month for their ongoing revenue maintenance plan to take care of the site because it takes care of itself. There's no plugins, but there's actually very little lost functionality, if any. It's actually the top 10 to 20 plugins that are most commonly used on WordPress are already built into Webflow. So you're not really losing much there, and you can use their interactions, they call them interactions, to create really interesting and engaging features on your website that outperform plugins time and time again, and they don't expire because they're made purely out of clean code. The other thing is that the sites load a lot faster than on Wix or on WordPress. And also when I talked about Wix, Wix is the same as Squarespace, Weebly, any of these beginner-friendly, amateur-friendly sites have the same issues, or platforms have the same issues. Like I said, the backups are automatic. Custom code is still available if you want to add really, really refined features, but not as necessary. And typically they're built from scratch by an expert. There are templates, but they're, the same thing with other platforms. A template means that other people are using the same template. You want to stand out. So it's best to have it built from scratch by an expert. And that design and development cycle is much, much faster because Webflow is a faster loading platform. It's easier to make changes and iterate. So that's what I have to say about website platforms. And I wanted to get that in there because I know a lot of you are probably in the phase of building a site for your business. And I strongly, strongly recommend Webflow, whether you hire me or another agency or you try to do it yourself. I highly recommend Webflow for those reasons. And lastly, if you have a great idea you want to bring to life, or you want to learn more about how your brand can make an impact and effectively communicate that impact, like we said, is of paramount importance, or you're just curious to learn more about branding and design, you can go ahead and book a call with me at the link on the screen, brandshinecreative.com/book. And if you book a call in the confirmation email, I'll include a link to a guide I recently released called 7 Steps to Building a Market-Ready Impact Brand. And it delves much more deeply into the content I discussed tonight and provides a very clear 7-step framework that you can take on your own and start on your own to build a really strong brand for your business. All right, everybody, thank you so much for attending the seminar. I hope you learned something valuable. And if your startup's going to make an impact, consider joining Alan's other group and my other group, the Boulder Socially Responsible Business Meetup. And we'll be hosting more impact-focused events there in the future. I'd like to host some climate change experts and other similar experts that can give us some insight into how we can orientate our businesses to better serve the world and our communities. So please sign up for that group if you'd like to. It's got some low attendance and low membership, so I'd like to take some members from this group and bring them on over. But that's all I have to say. I'd like to open up the floor to questions. Hit me.